I didn't put any of them on, so you might want to make sure yours are.
Okay. We call to order the Traffic Safety Bikeways Pedestrians Committee for Thursday, October 20th at 6 p.m. First, or second on the agenda is approval of minutes. Tammy, you're the only one here that can approve those.
Okay.
Did you look at them?
I did look at them.
Okay.
Approve.
You approve? And then I'll need to second them.
Okay.
And Stephen and Michael will abstain because they were not at the meeting. Third on the list is appearance of interested citizens. Rhonda Rich, I have on the list. If you want to come up, please. Hi.
My name is Rhonda Rich, and I'm president of the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association. And Rob Witters couldn't make it tonight. He's been coming to all your meetings, and he's kind of our representative along with Carolyn Holman. She's with me tonight. And I just wanted to I haven't been here for a while. I just kind of wanted to reiterate what Rob said at the last meeting, that we really appreciate your committee working along with Public Works and us to accomplish a few things that we were asking for. Yeah. And, at the September 6th City Council meeting, by consensus, the City Council had agreed to look into a speed table on Cummings and Delight, and instead of a stop sign on Dearborn and Shoreline, they're going to be putting kind of the flashing speed displays like you have it on Lock Haven, which I think are pretty effective because that slows me down. Okay. So, so I'm going to steal your thunder here, Mike, but I did get, I copied off what Debbie had sent out on some of the responses from Public Works that on these projects, and very pleased to see that the solar speed display signs are ordered and be coming in December, and then there's design work to be done on Cummings, and I know that's a difficult area there because it's, the kids cross the street and they're just kind of right in the ditch too, so maybe there's some right-of-way issues. But again, I hope this encourages other neighborhood associations, and I know there's several more who've come on board to go through this process. It's never quick. Come in and ask for something and, next month they expect it. So, so I appreciate that. And if you need any input on that neighborhood traffic management program, Carolyn or Rob would be glad to work with anybody on it and give some input, because we've looked through it. I can't say that we've gone through all the steps on it, but it's just needs to be more user friendly. And and I think I'm glad to see in there too that the neighborhood associations are looked at differently than, say, a group of people on a street who want to maybe get the curb painted or such.
Rhonda, I would like to say thank you for working with us through this year to do this. I think it's brought a lot to my attention for that neighborhood traffic management process. Mm-hmm. And Tammy, we've got a work group that have been working on it. It's going to take a couple of months, but I do think that we'll have a clear document for neighborhood associations and citizens to use going forward.
Mm-hmm. Great. I want to mention one more thing. We had Andy Kronzner, who's the principal of Cummings, come to our last meeting about a week and a half ago. And I talked to him to a cleanup and told him that the speed table was in process. And he is very excited about it. And he said, if you need a letter, I'll write one. But also, he and another parent there pointed out that at Rivercrest, where Rivercrest kind of curves around where the playground is and comes out on Cummings, the parents tend to park on both sides of Rivercrest, right off of Cummings there to pick up their kids. And so when parents are coming out of the parking lot and taking a left to go back on Cummings, they can't see either way. So they mentioned whether possibly the curb could be painted yellow to, deter people from parking right to the end of the corner there where it is a hazard. So I can pursue that farther, but that was something that the principal mentioned that is kind of a safety hazard, and just that time of day.
Can they
Just
put
that.
cones out? Can the
I
school
guess
just
they
put-
could, I don't know, who would be in charge of that, it'd just be like.
Yeah, because my first thought is that, and I'm going to ask Mike too, that do you agree that maybe yellow is not going to deter them from stopping there?
I agree. I think cones would be,
The best
Suitable.
option, right?
yeah.
You got
And-
four?
And then the school.
Crossing guard, put them out, or
Right,
whoever
'cause
beforehand and pick them
They're in
up.
control of that area and they would understand when it's needed most.
Uh-huh.
I think
People pay
that's,
attention to cones.
Are they allowed to put cones out on their own? Out in the street? I guess?
yeah, Sergeant Lede. What do you think?
I think that would probably be the most effective thing that we wouldn't interfere with.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, I think every single one of our schools have pretty much the same issue,
Yeah.
and they've all come up with their own entrance and exit plans.
Okay.
That works best for each individual school.
Oh, okay.
But if we tried to enforce our traffic laws at every one of our schools, I mean,
Yeah.
For
it
35
would-
minutes?
It would be physically
Yeah.
impossible. I mean, the engineering, I mean, schools were well in before everything else was planned and the city grew the way it grew.
Uh-huh.
There's just no other way for us to be able to effectively enforce something like that. And I agree, I don't think the yellow paint will do a thing at
Yeah.
that point. But
So-
the cones have been.
Okay.
So if you will, just convey that information of our suggestion of what we think should happen, because I don't believe paint is effective in this scenario.
Okay, so they could possibly put cones from where the exit is of the parking lot out to the corner, then to deter people, at least on one side of the street, so people can get out there and see probably most.
Just a
of
couple
turn
feet
lane.
off the curb was
Yeah, okay,
all it would take.
I'll share that with them.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank
Okay,
you.
welcome
thank
to
you.
come back and let us know if it works or not, and then we.
Yeah, we'd like an
we'll-
update.
We'll continue the conversation if.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Great job.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that is all for people, interested citizens. Next, we have committee update to the committee purpose. You have this printout with you for the committee, and I have highlighted the changes that we made. We combined the first three purposes and made it a little bit more readable and not duplicative. So I'm asking the committee for approval to bring this to, Debbie, is it council? Is it council? Yeah, bring it to council and legal for review and update.
Do you want us to spend a minute to read it? or-
Do I have to read it? Do you want me to read it? I can read it. The second line has been changed to, I'm just going to give the updates of what we changed because I actually don't have what it was before. To develop recommendations for inclusion in the bicycle system component of the Kaiser Transportation System Plan, including an assessment of the needs for bikeways, recommended routes with cost and priorities, proposed funding sources, and implementation programs. And number 3, we changed to add the word proactively, to proactively recommend traffic safety priorities for the city. And number 5, to serve in a liaison capacity between the city and the Oregon Traffic Safety, we changed the word to committee. I believe it was commission before, in developing the statewide highway safety program and in meeting National Highway Safety Association, and that word was changed from whatever it was before, program standards. And then skipping down to number 8, we added parentheses of example. So it reads, to promote public knowledge and compliance with traffic safety program and laws and emerging issues. For example, policy development on issues like e-bikes and autonomous vehicles. Who knows what might be coming? They're starting up, they're coming out. So we thought we might want to be able to put a little bit around it. That is all we've asked to change in here from before. I do believe there was one extra thing that Stephen Wolf had added in the top of the purpose, but I did not highlight that piece Was that correct? Do you remember that,
It
Stephen?
was number 2.
It was number 2?
That language in number 2.
It was number 2,
What
okay.
we've already sent to the,
We haven't sent it. I stopped it from being sent to legal because I wanted us to do a full review and not waste time. So this would be the committee purpose that I would suggest to go. Any questions? Michael?
Couple things. So in that purpose where it says to make recommendations on projects and practices, so, as I've said before, I'd like to have our input at like 30% design. Is that?
We did. I was turned down. That I don't even want to put it in there because they said it wouldn't have been recommended. We would have had that removed. So it's hard because they don't want us involved in the middle of talking with the construction people and them. I don't know at what point in time it could come to us to even give a recommendation, but I feel like when I asked if we could do that, it was like, that's not your place. That's what I got from it.
From him?
Well, I had Debbie as my liaison and had her ask legal about it, and then they came back and said that they don't recommend that for us.
Okay. I guess, not against what you're saying, it's just the concept of us not being able to put input at an early stage where we're not even talking with a contractor, but really, what is it we're looking at this whatever project? Seems like that would be an important role for us.
And I do agree with what you're saying. I just don't see that where we would fit in that process, being that there's so much already going on with public work, is it Public Works? No, it's the other one. It is Public Works? And at what point are they sending us the blueprints? Where do we get involved? I kind of agree with them. We shouldn't be in that part. Where do you get in that part? If you want to keep digging to find out how we can look at the blueprints to see where the sidewalks are going, I think it just keeps changing that to put us, if you think about the Cow Park area, I believe they have an area they have to put a walkway. Where that walkway is going to go, obviously it's going to be right in the front, but that's all I know. That's all we can know.
Yeah, so like, for an example, I saw also on Verda, but further
Thank you.
to the north, the city, I guess, repaved and then put in some ADA compliant.
We have, or?
We have, yeah. They repaved that stretch. And then
Where are you talking about?
Verda, north of the circle. So where it does that little dog leg thing. So they repaved it and put in, I don't know if it was concurrent where they put in the ADA compliant crossing there. But I guess, in my mind, something like that would have been like, hey, we're planning on doing this just for example, 2024. And we say, okay, that sounds good. Would we be able to do this here? That was always
Give our
what I was
input.
looking at, yeah.
I can't answer that.
Right,
I can't
right, you
answer it.
can't.
I don't know where they would insert us
Yeah.
to be able to look at that and give a suggestion.
Right. Yeah, and I think that would be something that, I guess Shannon was the one who put the input or gave you the response.
Not just Shannon, it comes from Public Works as well. Part of the problem is the committee meets only once a month, and if a project comes in right after our meeting and has gone through the different steps that it needs to go through, to delay it another month so that people who aren't traffic engineers can look at it, I think that they find that inefficient. I do know that, I think some of you committee members might remember when Nate Brown came with something with, I think it was the Wheatland Road Corridor. It was a concept plan. And I know that they always want to include this committee on those kind of opportunities. It's just the regular construction bones kind of things that's past the concept.
Yeah.
That is when it's just doesn't
We're holding
really
up.
work. And
Yeah.
the conceptual part is frequently too small to have a great big open house and getting input from others. So they just bypass it.
Yeah. So, Mike, like the example I was giving for Verda, can you give a rough estimate of the life of from design, or discussion to, I guess, construction? Like, was that a 2-year thing, or was that a?
It started in 2009,
No,
right?
every couple years, we put together a list of areas in town to be resurfaced, and we execute that, and part of doing with that was bringing the ramps compliant to ADA standards, and we look at the road and we look at how can we improve it. Right now, there's bike lanes on both sides, so to add that, and there's no more room, there's no more right-of-way there to add a buffer zone or add bump outs or whatnot. So that's something where when I go look at it, we have X amount of money, and what are the areas around town? What are our needs, and prioritize them and drive them and see how they look and see if it coincides with our PCI, which is the pavement condition index, which is driven every 5 years, and that just gives us a base point to go from, and then I'll physically drive those and go, okay, does this number match it? If the street's a 70 and we drive it and it's just like, oh my goodness, it's a 40, or physically you can, with your eyes you can see that, and then that jumps up maybe higher on the list. So like Verta, for example, and then where it wraps around down Calmia, that was a very poor stretch that we rated low on the PCI, drove it and said, yeah, it did, and then stuck it in the list. So.
It got up higher. Okay.
But so I guess if it was done in 2022, how far back did you?
I had that list 2020, and I don't think we paved in 2021. We were going to put something out, but didn't get things out quick enough because there's things that are behind that, because like I said, we have to bring up the current RABs to standard, and things were put out, and so it was, bumped a year ahead. But generally, I'll begin working on it early in the year and ready to go out early spring of that year.
So same year.
So that we don't have,
Same season.
I don't have just pull them out of the computer and go, okay, here's the next set. I'm busy working on those and putting together, and I have ones behind. Like right now, I have a bunch of we've looked at, and then those are in the queue for the next, what's coming up next, and I'll just pull from that and go, okay, let's relook at these. How have they changed in the last year? Have we heard any input that, hey, have you looked over here? This one's worse, and then look at that and throw that in. So.
Okay.
But they're ever changing, so to say. So no, you wouldn't have like 5 years ago. I wouldn't be 5 years in advance. Early, I wouldn't be able to say, here's the streets we're going to do, because of how traffic and how streets change and how
Right. Okay.
That's a spreadsheet.
And the other thing was just on number 5, you didn't touch it much, but I just was wondering, where it says that we're developing the state highway safety program and in meeting the National Highway Safety Association program standards, are we talking about as they cover streets within Kaiser, or what does that mean exactly? And does it?
I would assume that it would just be Kaiser, because Kaiser really doesn't have any kind of impact on other cities' roads or the state's roads. Those are controlled by the
I
state.
can't stand it. So the TSP is really what we're talking about.
Yes, and the TSP is just Kaiser, and they are, that is pretty old right now.
Yeah.
And they will be updating it, and when they do, they always include at least 1 or 2 members of the committee in the, Technical Advisory Committee, I think is what it's called. So it's one of those things, it's pretty expensive. We need to get a consultant, so we'll need to apply for grants. I believe the plan was to do that fairly recently, but then, and I think we did, or the grant didn't even come out. So it's delayed.
Okay.
I don't know how long for.
Okay, Michael, so did you want us to add something more about the traffic
Well, I guess when I read that,
or the
when
TSP?
to me, that sounds like it's something bigger than just Kaiser. It seems like we're working with the state level committee, safety committee, on doing stuff that's not necessarily just Kaiser roads. And that's where I was confused, just what's the scope of that is. And if it is just Kaiser city streets,
Okay.
I guess I prefer we don't follow highway standards and more follow street standards.
So Michael, I suggest that you let me take this back again and we do not vote on this. If there's any other things that we want to bring to our attention right now that I can investigate and bring back again, we'll bring it back on November. Did you have anything, Stephen?
The only thing I'd observe is that in number 8, in addition to the highlighted language, the language "and emerging issues" is also an addition to the existing purpose, so that should also be highlighted.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I just tried to sneak it in. Let me sneak some stuff in. See if I can catch the lawyers. Anything for you, Tammy? That you want to? Okay, so if those are the only two things, I will take this back and bring it back to our meeting next month. All right, next thing on the list is the community committee update to neighborhood traffic management program. And I was going to turn this over to Tammy to kind of give an update of where we've gone for what we've done since the last meeting and anything else.
We've had our work group. Several of us have met from this committee to really take it apart and digest it. And so I've kind of taken the lead on reformatting the language. And I look forward to chatting with the groups that have already gone through this process to understand where they saw the roadblocks and hiccups and so on and so forth. I'm right now still gathering a bunch of information to understand the language that is there and what exists and what is outdated and so on. And then the last piece of the puzzle that I need to gather is it mentions a map that shows us what each type of road is. And Mike, I'm looking to you if you have that. Does it come from your department? Which ones are arterials, which ones are neighborhood roads?
I think that should be on our city website, but I'll have to
Is
check.
Well, I
Yeah,
can
well,
look
no,
back
and
in.
it's actually in the neighborhood traffic management plan, or in the traffic management plan we follow.
TSP?
Yeah.
The
The
TSP.
TSP has it.
You need the TSP.
Okay.
And that's online.
Perfect. That's what I want to just
Sorry. I
get a good
didn't-
look at to understand what roads we've been talking about, because it is targeted to, I don't want to
Yeah.
speak out of turn. It kind of gives the impression it's talking just about neighborhood routes, but then the more I
It
look at it,
expands.
it really talks about everything as a whole. And that's what's taken some time to really get through to make sure that, clearly, it's hard for me to understand, let alone someone else. And so for me to do what I need to do, I need to really understand it, and that's what's taken some time. And then my goal is to just kind of format it. I love the process. I think the process is very sound. So I want everyone to understand I'm not trying to change that. It's just more of making this thick document a little more user-friendly. That's what we're shooting for.
And some spreadsheets. Awesome.
So anyone who has experience working through it, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Okay, I can get you Rhonda's email
Perfect.
address so that you guys can correspond.
Rhonda, are you willing to work with me on how you experienced it?
Yes, or Bob or Carol.
Okay, if I reach out to you and you get me in touch with them, that would be easiest.
Okay.
Thank
Michael, did you have something you wanted?
I just wanted to ask Mike, that TSP map that shows the arterials, et cetera, hierarchy, that's current? I mean, there haven't been changes to things at all? Okay.
I printed it, and if it has Kaiser Station and whatnot on there, I would say it's current.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and move on to Tree Cities, and this is for me to update. So two meetings ago, we had talked about Tree Cities, and maybe a couple more meetings than that. Our city manager, Adam Brown, came in and spoke to it, saying that that would be a nice add to the city of Kaiser. After going back and forth, I don't believe that this belongs in this committee. I do believe we could present it to Parks and Rec for them to investigate and move forward. And I'd like to nominate you, Michael, for going and presenting it. One of the cool things I will say is at my day job, we had our annual conference, and there was a vendor there, Tree Cities USA, that gives just a quick checklist of. And when I started reading the checklist, the contact information first says mayor or city forestry contact. And I'm like, I don't even think city, we don't have a forestry. So that becomes public works.
Or city manager.
or city manager. So I would like to work with Michael and having him go present to Parks and Rec. Does that work for the committee? See, hearing nothing, I'm gonna move on. Thank you.
Can I just ask Debbie? So is that something you set up, or how does that work?
But you just come to, I actually have all of those printed out for you, the slide presentation. That's probably the best way to do it, rather than to have everybody turn around, face backwards, and watch it. And so you can come, hand those out to them, and talk to them just under their public testimony.
Okay.
Thank you.
And when is their next meeting?
They meet on the second Tuesday of each month. I had to laugh. My dad always used to say, you can have that the second Tuesday of next week. Okay, so November 8th is their next one.
Okay. Michael, are you going to, I'll come back to that in a second. So the next area we have is committee member input and neighborhood association reports. I know we're not all assigned to neighborhood associations, but if any of the committee members wants to give an update on any of the neighborhood associations they went to, that'd be great too. I think I'll start if that's okay. Okay, great. So Mayor Clark has been sending the Salem-Kaiser Area Transportation Study that's called SCATS, and they meet, it looks like monthly, and in reading in this, it'd be kind of nice to get an update. So I was going to attend the meeting next week and bring back some notes. It really is discussing, so they're amending Lancaster Drive northeast between Sunnyview Road northeast and Wolverine Street. So not all of it is towards us because we're combined with Salem. So I just think it would be nice to just hear what's going on at that meeting. So I'm going to take this on and report back at our next full meeting and see if this is something we want to monitor going forward. Obviously, the mayor thinks that we should. That's why she's been sending me these. So is everybody getting these? Okay, the whole committee is getting it. So I'm going to take the first one on, and we might add this to our rotation of review. All right.
So for that one, I noticed, I did look into it.
You did?
And there was 6 locations, give or take, but 2 were Kaiser specific. So
Oh, that's what I meant to say.
There's a list.
You are right. I did,
Because they made some cuts, and my target was to make sure they didn't cut us, and it did not look like they did. They cut Salem's, not ours, because they had more to choose from.
okay.
I don't know if your
I
printer
don't
has
think-
that,
no, I
but
just
I
printed
looked
the
it up
notes.
online, because,
Thank you.
yes,
Nice.
so I'm willing to help you with what you need to know
All right.
moving forward.
I'll go in blind, come out seeing it all. All right. Do you have anything, Tammy, for the group?
All I want to bring up is, we last night met, my neighborhood committee met, I'm with Northwest, and we hosted the candidate forum. So all of the associations grouped together to host a candidate forum last night here, which was very successful. We had about 75 attendees was the final number that I read this morning. And we heard candidates for city council, Marion County Commissioners, Oregon House of Representatives, and Oregon State Senate. It was very informative, moved very quickly. So they shared what they could with us.
Awesome. When we're done, I forgot a piece of mine. But Stephen, do you have anything you want to bring?
Nothing really. Cycle Oregon was amazing, and so that was fun. I'm glad they revived that. But no, nothing for the good of the order.
What is Cycle Oregon? Can you give me some details on it?
Oh, what is it?
Yeah.
It's an annual, or has been an annual bike event that takes place. It's a week-long bike ride, basically, and goes through some of the more remote parts of the state. And historically, it's been about 2,000 riders. This year, they held it to about 1,000 riders, and covers about 300 miles. We were in the John Day area, and rode out to the Painted Hills and the
That's
surrounding
beautiful.
communities, and it's a tremendous amount of fun, a lot of climbing, and
Awesome.
Good times.
Awesome. Michael, do you have anything for the committee?
Well, this is something I was going to bring up 2 meetings ago? 2 meetings ago?
2 meetings.
And it was related to the SCATS thing. There just had been discussion in that, and maybe things have changed since things have gotten axed, but it was just talking about spending money there's this new pilot project that the Oregon Transportation Commission has called Great Streets. And it's to help people get around who don't have cars, particularly the low-income and minority households. In the meeting minutes from SCATS, it was the cities of Salem and Kaiser were trying to get them money spent on things that were not so limiting. I think it has to be on state-controlled roads. And so the one thing I was concerned with was where the cities were trying to get money spent on. One was McGilchrist, that was the Salem one, and Wheatland Road was the one in Kaiser. And it's not that I'm against spending money on Wheatland Road. I think the design's great. It's just I felt like if we are going to push for grant money through this program, I think we could have better bang for the buck on places like River Road, especially on the south end where there's definitely a need for people to be able to get around safely. So again, I haven't looked at the latest SCATS thing, so I don't know if there's been any change to that, but I just thought that was something that we should be trying to follow the spirit of the program to help the people who the program's designed for. And the money that would come to go to Wheatland was really just a drop in the bucket compared to the $10 million needed for Wheatland. So
Well, that meeting is on the 25th. If you wanted to direct me to what you want me to ask, I can do that.
okay, I'll check the current notes to see if anything's changed from.
Okay. Just get
2
that
months
to
ago.
me by Monday, because I believe the meeting it's Tuesday at noon.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
And other than saying congratulations to Stephen on doing that ride, it's a beautiful ride, but you work for it.
No, it was tremendous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So then I guess mine can actually go under the staff report with Mike. We want to do this together? All right. So,
Sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. Can I add, because Hirsch and David are both out.
do you have some updates for them? to give?
I know they did the bike helmets at the firehouse.
Okay.
Um,
How did that go?
They said 20. The number I got was about 20 helmets they were able
Wait,
to.
you need to talk louder. I can't hear
Sorry,
you.
20 helmets was what the number I was given that they were able to provide. So it was successful, but less attendees than they were expecting.
Is that for the public works or the fire district?
Fire district.
That was all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
If I may interject here, because we're talking that, I did contact Chariots, and they brought me a stack of these maps. They are getting ready to redo them, but I also was looking for something else and came across another stack in our offices. So I have both of these, and I can leave them here for you, or if you think you're going to be going and doing something like the Public Works, I don't know what else is going on, anything going on in schools or whatever, you can
Okay.
take some.
Okay.
Could you hold on to those for us and then just see, because I think Hirsch is going to want to put them in his stash of stuff when he goes to
That's
do the
kinda
next
what I
one?
thought, but he's not here. So-
Yeah.
Okay. or
If
then-
you'll hold them for us, I'd
I will
appreciate
certainly.
that.
I'll just stick them back here in where your stuff is for the meetings.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if I'm not here, you can tell anybody you're asking that they are
They're
here.
here.
Okay?
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, Hirsch mentioned something briefly last night when I bumped into him at the thing about some micro grants program that they were looking to get money for helmets, but he made it sound like it wouldn't work, at
Right,
least.
we have to tie it to an event.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
right.
without that tie, we couldn't, it wasn't what we thought.
Yeah.
And dealing with helmets, Dave Dempster sent me an email with a list of helmets to order and whatnot. So I ordered those a couple weeks ago. Those helmets came in, and they're at Rickman at our pump house where we keep our stuff. So you got 28 purple mediums and 24 black larges, which it sounds like you probably
That's what we need.
distributed some of them, or it might have been the kids' sizes at the last event you had, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next area is the staff report for Mike Griffin, and as I said, we were gonna tag team it, because I sent him an email a couple weeks ago asking him, I went through all the minutes for the whole year, and I wanted to pull out every single, what is it called? Interested citizens that have come and had a, I don't want to call it a complaint, but a complaint about an area that they found. So he was gracious enough to answer every single one of my questions. So I'm going to go through just for the record and of what we talked about. The Hidden Creek and Brook Hollow painting project. This has been given to, and his response, Mike's response was, this has been given to our contractors to paint.
So I have an update on that.
Okay.
It's done.
Done, all right. Dearborn near Claggett Creek Park, a crosswalk, and at this time, not at this time, so it's on the list, but will be revisited maybe a little bit later, or I can just nudge you again when I need my list. Okay, that's good? Okay. Verda at Dearborn, is this the Verda Lane project? And his response was Chariot's bus issue. So Chariots is dealing with that? Is that what your response is?
Yeah, I can't remember all the ins and outs of that one, but it had to do with the Chariot bus, and I'm not sure where it went from there. I just know it wasn't a Public Works issue.
Okay. Cummings Delight speed table, they're working on the design right now. Shoreline speed display, and this solar speed displays have been ordered and will ship December 2022. A library crosswalk, the solar beacon in design. What does that mean?
There's ins and outs with that. Our engineers are looking at that, looking at the road, looking at the current crosswalk that is there, and just looking at just the design work and what it takes to accomplish that. So that's the report I got from Bill, that it's being looked at and it's being worked on. So.
Awesome. And then Lock Haven near McNary, no action at this time. And then Bailey, 8th and Chemawa Road, a crosswalk for the library addresses this. So that's the same as the library crosswalk. I said it twice. Oh, okay. And then Windsor Island Road, Willow Lake, paint, no action will be taken at this time. No parking signs were installed previously to east to Windsor. That's just our answer.
Yeah, we had issues from the apartments pulling out right there and then
Right.
towards the east. And so we put up no parking here to corner and then one at Windsor back to the
Awesome.
west.
Okay,
So
that's what
either
was
side to enforce.
So those are all the things. Did you want to add anything else that you guys have been working on for the month? Or the previous month? Or from our last meeting?
I think you got it with that email. to
Wow.
me, and
I might be knowing what I'm going to do. So this all is in preparation for us to write a memo to the council of what our yearly event was, just to keep them in the loop of what we're hearing and from citizens and what we have at least done. So during the month of November, I get to write this letter and bring it back for the committee to review and add comments so that we can get that to them in December. Yeah. All right, next. Any other questions or anything on that? Cool, moving right along. Police liaison report from Sergeant Leday. Good to see you.
The only thing we have is, once again, we received our annual grants. We got our HVE, which is our high visibility enforcement for DUIs. We got $5,000 that was given for us to go out on overtime details in the evening to go out and look for those DUI drivers. We got our speed enforcement, an additional $4,000 for that. Our safety belt enforcement, we got an additional $5,000 for that. And for distracted driving, we got 7,000 again.
Wow.
So we have a total of 21,000 that we'll be distributing throughout the year. Some of them have specific events that we're required to do specific days and times on, but for the most part, we can kind of strategically plan different events for that enforcement aspect. So when we do have our complaints and our problem crash areas and such, those are areas that we specifically target on overtime also.
Awesome. Thank you. So number 10 is going to, we don't have our council liaison here today. So I wanted to bring up one last thing before we finish. And Mike, you have a lot of dates on here. So you just committed to the 5th or something, and then you also are reporting to Planning Commission, I guess. And then you can.
November 92nd.
No, November 92nd doesn't work for you. Okay.
Sorry. I go over it anyway, so
Okay.
Monday the 7th and then Wednesday the 9th.
So Michael, that's a lot on you. That is the council, Planning Commission, and Parks. Are you okay with that? Or do you,
Yeah.
if you need anybody to cover, if you'll just send them a message,
Every
we,
night that week. Just like me, I'll see you every night.
all right.
We'll have dinner before meetings.
So you-
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Friday's a holiday, so I'll make up for my everything that day.
All right. All right, with all of that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up and adjourn the meeting.